Good day, YouTube. Today I want to talk about something that I was thinking about for the last 2 days on and off. And the answer is, well, the question is, can you become wealthy while serving at least 20 years in the military? I believe 100% the answer is yes. And I'll begin by saying that many years ago and throughout the years when I was in the Air Force, I would hear people say over and over and over, service members don't get paid a lot of money. You're never going to get rich serving, working for the military as a uniformed member. Well, that was many years ago that I've heard that, and I still hear it once in a while. When I was an E4, I wrote an article or a letter to the Air Force Times. This was in 2000, and it talked about, my letter to the Air Force Times was specifically about, I'm tired of hearing people say, we don't get paid enough of money in the service. And because I'm coming from it from a different view, a different angle, in the sense that it's not how much money you earn, it's what you do with your money. And in my time, which I served 21 and a half years in the Air Force, almost 14 years active duty. The rest of the time was on reserve, so that was part-time, which means that I missed out on a lot of the earnings of a 20-year career if I would have been active the entire time. So I believe absolutely it's not how much you earn, it's what you do. And I joined the Air Force at the age of 24, and I started investing late on purpose. And another reason was because I wasn't very educated when it came to investment. Investments are long-term. They are not an emergency fund, and I didn't realize that back then. And I wanted to see my money now as opposed to the future. I looked at my thrift savings plan today, which I don't even look at often, and it's down. But I haven't lost anything because it should go back up over time. It fluctuates. If I withdraw right now, that's when I will lose. But I'm not close to retirement. I have 6 years, 5 months before I retire. I can't access that money till I'm 59 and a half at the earliest. And most likely I won't at that time. But yes, I believe you can become wealthy while serving in the military. Now I realize that the term wealthy can have different meanings to different people. If you talk to an 18-year-old and you tell them, hey, you have $10,000 in your bank account, he or she may say, I'm wealthy, and maybe they are for an 18-year-old. Whereas a 30 or a 40-year-old may say, no, my definition of wealth is X number of dollars. And I'm going to share a story with you, and that's my story. I began investing late in life. I was approximately maybe 33 years old, and I was doing some contributions. I wasn't maxing out. Where I was focusing with my money was paying off my mortgage where we used to live. We bought in 2003 for $169,000. We paid that off in, I think it was about 13 years, and then we moved into this house. This house we bought in 2017. We put $300,000 down. This house we paid $412,000 in 2017. It's gone up immensely since then. And we paid off this house in 8 months. We financed $112,000 and we paid it off in 8 months. This house and the almost 5 acres of land that we live on, and everything that we own is paid off. We don't owe anything to anybody with the exception of groceries, internet, cell phone, water, electricity, minimal stuff. I could retire right now if I wanted to, even though I'm not receiving my active duty military pension or my military pension. So this property in itself is worth a lot of money. In the last almost 5 years, it's gone up a lot. You add that to our investments, and we are knocking on the ceiling of of being millionaires. We meaning my wife and I. That's a true story. I share that because of the assets that we own are just under $1 million. Now, the reason I share that is not to show off, but to prove my point that if you're focused on whatever it is that you want to do, you can become wealthy. And again, I started out by saying that there's different interpretations of what wealth is. We started off with 6 pieces of luggage, my wife, my son, myself. That was it. And we were always on the same page, even though sometimes my wife and I disagreed. Another way of saying wealth is when you serve at least, let's say 20 years, whether it's active duty or combination of active and reserve, is another way of looking at wealth is experience. I have traveled the world. We as a family have traveled the world. I've been to more places by myself on behalf of the Air Force, sometimes where I couldn't take my family. But to me, those experiences are priceless, and that is a sign of wealth that I know about Europe, about Hungary, about Greenland, about being stationed in the Pacific, other countries as well. That's one example of wealth. Another example, besides financial wealth, is health. Because I served 21 and a half years, we had to do physical fitness. And at first, I would do it because it was a requirement. It quickly changed maybe 5-6 years into my career, maybe even sooner, that I realized physical fitness is good for me. And I had to do it. But I also did it because I wanted to, which was work out, cardio, run, push-ups, sit-ups. My weight hasn't fluctuated. I joined the Air Force when I was 24 years old, and I weighed 160 pounds. That's the most I've ever weighed. Throughout my career, I dropped, and I was at 155 pounds my entire career. I happen to weigh 153 pounds today. That's attributed to the physical fitness that I had to do in the military. That's an example of wealth. Travel is an example of wealth. Most people are going to think about, when they hear the word wealth, about finances. And I gave you the example of we're debt free. I am 50 years old right now. My wife and I were 100% debt free the first time, 44 years of age. Then we bought this house, and then we were debt free at the age of 46, 8 months after buying this house. That is a big deal. Then you have more money to invest. And I'm still serving as a civilian right now, where I have matching contributions for the thrift savings plan. Our assets that we own are outright, and it gives us an opportunity to give to others, whether it's our church, whether it's a mission. My wife and daughter went to Honduras a few years ago on a mission with our church, whether it's giving to financially to a youngster who needs it, or our family, our children, our in-laws, things like that. It's just a beautiful thing to give, and that is where we are. That's like I say, you can definitely become wealthy while serving in the military, regardless of branch, whether it's part-time reserve guard or active duty full-time. I gave you my example, my story, and I hope that this sticks with you. So when I hear people say, oh, the military doesn't pay that much, usually if they're not asking for my opinion or advice, I don't really say anything. I may think, I disagree, and leave it at that. It doesn't have to be confrontational, and it's not even worth it. But if somebody asks me for input, I'll try to paint a picture, kind of like what I did with this video, and say, yes, you can. And think of wealth in many ways. There's a lot of mentors that I had in the Air Force and still do. Some of them were good on finances. Some of them were good on education. Some of them were good on marriage. And my number one success in life is I've been married 26 years to my wife. We're empty nesters. We watch our grandchildren. Mainly she does, but I help too whenever we can. We have adult children. They both got married on this property. My son got married in the back, coming up on 3 years ago. My daughter got married in the forest, right over there, a month and a half ago. and her husband is a staff sergeant in the Air Force. She knows a lot about the military lifestyle. That's how she grew up. So I hope that my story, my time in this video has made you, either reassured you, or made you think, I never thought about it that way. Let's see what you can do. And I hope and wish the best for you. Take care.